Good morning, everybody, and I am coming to you today to talk about our virtual sketches from this past weekend. And a lot of people really struggled with these sketches for this past weekend. There is a lot of detail in all of them. So I thought I would step you through my process of how I go about looking for a sketch. So in this case, I'm going to use this sketch. I had a lot of questions about the circles, so I thought we would do this one. And when I first look at it, I just am, wow, there's a lot here. So the very first thing I do is I need to find pictures because I don't have any pictures. So I told you guys before that I'm working on my Hawaii album, and actually my brother-in-law sent me a lot more fun pictures. So I pulled out some, and then I kind of lay them out how the diagram is. So we have kind of a hero side and then a grid side. And I do that a lot when I scrapbook. If I have a very decorative side that I'm using, a sketch that I'm using, then I often will do a grid on the second page because I want to put a lot more pictures. So I pulled two photos that I thought would be fun, that were really great, that I can put on my left side, and then I needed pictures on my right side. And I was trying to get the whole family in. I actually missed because I don't have one of my husband, but I found these, which I liked a lot and kind of reflected this hike that we were on when we were in Hawaii. So I kind of lay them out. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is I've already changed the second side. It used two 4x4s and two vertical 4x6 photos, one of which they actually put their title halfway on. Well, I didn't really have 4x6s that were vertical, but I had two that were horizontal. And then I found two smaller 4x4s that I could put on the side. So I'm going to change the orientation of my second page. Instead of this strip being along the right side, I'm going to move it to the bottom side. So I'm going to change it already to work with my pictures. So now I have my pictures. The next thing that I do is I go to the collection of paper, and for Hawaii, am working on Tropic Time, and this was a jungle hike. So I knew I wanted to pull in greens. So when I am looking at my pages, I look for a dark, I look for a light that complements, and then I look for a medium tone. So this has some of this color in the middle, and then the lighter is from this, so these will coordinate. Now, because these are they're pretty dark, the mint helps to make it a little bit lighter, but my pictures are also pretty dark because we're in the woods. So because everything is pretty dark, I want to lighten it up. So to lighten it up, I've pulled this cream print that was in there that I'm going to use for my circle. So that will help to lighten it up. So that's kind of how I chose my pictures. All right, my paper, sorry. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that it calls for is a 11.5 by 11.5 square, and then you cut it diagonally 2 times. Well, I'm not going to use the back of this print. I'm actually going to use this print. So I'm going to cut, oh, I only need one because I can use this as the background print, and then I'll just cut this one. Okay, so I want my diagonals to go this way, and I need to cut I think this was already 11.5. Let me just double check it. It is. So now I need to cut this diagonally, but you see it doesn't fit in my trimmer. So when I have to do something like this, I just kind of fold it in half. I don't crease it all the way, but I bend it so I can fit it into my trimmer. If you have like a straight edge blade, you can use that. I just kind of fit it in here, creasing it. And that is good for me. And then we're going to cut it again. And it's going to cut pretty much right where that crease was. And when you're doing, whenever you're cutting anything with triangles or anything with a point, you always want to start in the middle so you don't damage your points. All right, so there are my triangles. And they are going to go on the sides like this. All right, so that's how we're starting. So then we go back here. So now I've got my base page and my triangle. Now this page, I might want to trim it down to 11.5 by 11.5, maybe. What they do is they have a frame right around the outer edge. And I'm just not sure if I'm going to want to do that or just have this carry over onto the other side. So for now, I'm not going to trim it down. I'm going to leave it right like this. And I'm going to go to my 11-inch circle. And we know from my 11-inch circle that I wanted to use this lighter paper. So I'm going to bring that in. And then I'm going to need my jumbo circle. And this one doesn't have the measurements on here. So I also need a ruler. Okay, so if we go to the instructions say we need an 11-inch circle and then an 8 3/4 inch circle. So my jumbo circle does have a template on it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the measurements. So we need to measure, and I think it's going to be the red, just looking at it. And it is. So the red on the outer will give me the bigger circle, and then the red on the inner is almost 8 3/4 exactly. So we're just going to need the red blade and our jumbo circle. And so we line it up. And then I grab my red blade. And I'm going to cut a circle from the outside. Okay, now, because we're going to cover most of this circle, and because I don't like to waste my paper, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to cut in the inside to save all of that paper that's going to be on the inside. But if you look at here, we know I'm going to cover up to the red, but I want to give myself just a little bit of room in case I don't cut it exactly perfectly. So instead of cutting with the red blade, which would cut it closest to this edge, I'm going to go ahead and cut it with the green blade just to give myself a little wiggle room in case I don't cut my circle exactly perfectly. So I am going to go ahead . All right, so there is my big circle, and this is all scrapped that I can use later. And now I need to cut my inner circle, which is 8 3/4, which we already determined would be red on the inside blade. So again, I'm going to line this up. And I have marked my jumbo trimmer, which makes it easier for me to line it up, and I will link the video. Megan Jacks did a video on how to mark your circle for this, and I will link it below in the comments for those of you that might like to add these marks to your trimmer. And again, make sure you hold it carefully. That's going to be my inner circle, and I should have enough room. It should cover this circle perfectly, giving myself a little bit of room. See how I gave myself a little room just in case I didn't cut it perfectly? All right. So let me move my circles out of the way because we're done with the circles. And let me bring my paper back in. Let me move my blades out of the way. I have cut myself with these blades, so be careful and make sure when you're done using them to cover them up and put them away, because I have caught myself doing that. All right, so I can bring this back in. I I've got this triangle on the left side. I've got this triangle that's going to go on the right side. I've got my circle that's going to go in the center. This one. So this will go here. And then I know that I wanted to use these two pictures. So the first thing that I see when I look at this like this is I don't like I don't like the edge like this. So I already know that I am going to want to trim this down, and I'm going to put a mat on it. So now I start looking at the colors that I'm going to want to use. And just based on my own experience with outdoor hiking photos, one of my favorite go-to colors is craft. So I will probably pull craft first, just to see how I feel about the craft. And I like craft. I like it because it also pulls out the colors and the sticks and the bamboo. We were hiking through a bamboo forest. Yes, bamboo forest in Hawaii. But I can choose other colors. I can see this will warm it up. Do I want it to have a little bit warmer of a tone? That looks nice too. I could pull in a green. Of course, we might be too much green. Nope, don't like the green at all. The green doesn't do anything for me. I know that I want to mount my pictures with a coral color or an orange color. So we could try orange. Nope, I don't like that at all. So I definitely am interested in the brown family. So the only other choice I have is hot fudge. And I don't have a hot fudge. I'm out of hot fudge. I got to place an order today. Oh, it's time to place my order today. But there's hot fudge, which I don't like. Hot fudge is too dark. So now I'm at, do I like the caramel? Or do I like the craft? And that's kind of where we are with those two choices. The other thing that I can do that maybe will help me make my decision is I will go ahead and I will pull in, I don't have a scrap, but I have these two. I think I like this coral color better than the other one's a little too orange. And I know our shirts are sort of oranges, but they really were coral. So I'm going to go with this one. And I'm just going to put a photo here, so you guys will get the gist of what this is going to look like. So here I am. I'm looking here. And I'll tell you right now a few things that I already know I'm going to do. I know I'm going to ink the edges of my circle because I want them to pop off more off of the page. So my circle will get inked on the outside and the inside. I will probably ink around the edges of my mint green, and depending on what background I choose, so this is the first choice with craft. All right, now let's pull in this warmer caramel. It's not going to matter. I'm going to ink both. And this is it with the warmer caramel. So I know which one I like and which one I'm going to choose. Have you chosen? What do you think? I'm going to go with the craft. I just like it better. So I will go with the craft, and I will ink around the edges of the craft. So that's where we are right now. So let me go ahead. I am going to go off camera right now. I'm going to ink around my edges. I am going to adhere all of this down, and then I will come back and we will do the second page together. Okay, everybody, and I'm back, and you're gonna notice a couple changes from when I left, and primarily it is with the background paper that I ended up choosing. You know, when I had last signed off, I said I was going to use the craft paper, but as I was cleaning off my desk to adhere everything down, I found the background. Oh, look, it's even stuck. The background where I had cut out the circle, and I put that on there, and I was like, oh wait, I really like how that looks. And to me, it ended up just grounding everything perfectly, and it no longer felt like it was just running off the page. I just felt like the craft was too light, and the other colors that I had chosen were too dark, and the lighter avocado mid-tone paper worked the best. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to my sketch, and I'm looking at the second page, and just from looking at it, they've kind of pulled over the same paper for their big block. So I'll start with that, and I have two choices, right? I can either go with the mint and bring that over like this, or I can go with the darker tone and pull it over like this. And I like the way that that looks better. So if we bring our sketch in, so then after that, they basically mounted all of their photos. So I was thinking maybe I could use this as a big mount for all of my photos, and then do a smaller mount with each of my individual photos. So it would look something like this. So it carries the mint over to this page, because I really, if I have something on the left page, I like to follow it through on the right page. So it would look something like this, was what I was thinking. So then after that, they have this border element, and then they have one more lighter strip. And I did find these stickers that I haven't used, and I'm kind of liking the way that they look. So I may pull, I like the orange one. It's just fun. And so I thought I might pull that one over along the bottom edge, and then I would need one final strip to go along the bottom. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I was trying to decide, do I pull in another color or not? And I have been playing with different choices, and I think what I'm going to end up doing is, rather than putting the avocado all the way around the edge, I think I'm just going to pull that avocado right over, so it'll look something more like that. So that's what I am going to start with. So the first thing that I'm going to do is cut down all my photos and pictures and mount all my pictures. Okay, everybody, so I went off camera and I put my mats on all of my pictures on the right hand side, and I was chit-chatting away, and then I realized that I forgot to hit record. So I've finished my layouts, and I've come back on, and I'm going to walk through the process of what I did while I was off camera. I really didn't do a whole lot more afterwards, but let's start with the right-hand page, which is where I left you. What I had told you I was going to do was map my photos and then put a green border across the bottom, which is what I ended up doing. What I did do was, at the time, I thought that I was going to use the coral border along the bottom, but what I found when I did that, it was actually too much. It was too graphic a change, and it was taken away from my photos. And as you guys always know, my photos are my heroes. That's what I'm always trying to bring the focus back to. So I tried a whole bunch of different things along this seam, and I ended up going with this green border. I did put a little bit of dashed lines across the top just to ground it a little bit, and then I added some gems to further ground it. So then I had to embellish. So this is the final. So again, I didn't want to add too much more. I had this Tropical Paradise title, which I loved, and I thought that would draw in to my title and into our event and where we kind of were. And then I had a bunch of these green, kind of darker green, which matched my darker vibe of this whole hike and my paper. So I pulled those in and then added just a touch of coral and some white flowers, bringing 3 clusters so your eye goes all the way across. But then I had this big, huge green spot. So I went back to the original design and saw that she had put this little journaling piece across the design. And so I thought, oh, well, what if I added just a small little journaling box here? And that helped to break up all of the deep avocado across the bottom. And in the end, I really love how it turned out. And for me, embellishing is all just about trying different things out. Trying this, trying that. I liked these leaves because they kind of curve naturally. And so they were able to curve around the edge. When I added this border to the right-hand side, I added a small little piece to the left-hand side, always bringing the element across to the second page so it ties in together. So this is where I ended up with the virtual crop number 4 sketch. Hopefully that helps you kind of understand a little bit how I go about designing these pages. You guys have a great rest of the week. For those of you who I will be seeing this weekend, I'm looking forward to it. And I am ready for a weekend of cropping fun. All right, you guys, talk to you later. Bye.